Hundreds of schools close as the UK roasts in record-breaking heat. London isn't just calling, it's cooking, says the UN. Temperatures could rise to more than 40 degrees this week. Also tonight, preparing to hand over the keys to number 10. Sir Keir Starmer holds secret talks with Andy Burnham. And there's just an hour to go until England take on Ghana for a place in the knockout stages of the World Cup. We'll be live in Boston to hear how the city is getting World Cup fever. All that's come, much more on the UK Tonight. Good evening. Hundreds of schools are closing. Train companies are warning against non-essential travel. And red warnings for extreme heat will come into force in England and Wales from 9 a.m. tomorrow. Forecasters are predicting that we could see the highest temperatures ever recorded in the UK, surpassing even the long, hot summer of 1976. Our science editor, Tom Clark, has our first report tonight.
In heat like this, and given what's forecast in the next few days, this is probably the best place to be. And for many of us, what's not to like about Mediterranean heat in June? But it's not all fun and games. Heat-fuelled thunderstorms led to 26,000 lightning strikes across southern England. A few causing house fires like this one in Bristol.
Oh my God, it's actually flooding.
And the downpours contributed further to one of the major factors in this being a red weather alert for many places. That's the humidity. When the UK broke the 40-degree temperature record back in July 2022, the dew point, a measure of how much moisture is contained in the air, was around 9 degrees. Over the next couple of days, it's about 21 degrees. The air's saturated with moisture despite high temperatures.
So why is that important? Well, in an attempt to explain, some scientists are going to seal me in a temperature and humidity controlled chamber here at the University of Roehampton. So we're starting off in the chamber at about 40 degrees centigrade and up, and high humidity. And Emmanuel here has put in these skin temperature sensors on different parts of my body. I can really see why the advice is not to do physical exercise during a heat wave. Well, I'm really feeling it. And despite sweating pretty much non-stop, I'm not feeling any cooler at all.
Reduce the humidity by half, and the difference is remarkable.
Well, I'm definitely working up a sweat now. I can feel it, but it's not dripping off my hands into puddles on the floor like it was before. So I can only assume it's because it's evaporating into the air, because it's less humid.
The sensor reading showing my skin temperature at least a degree cooler in the lower humidity.
For the young and for the old, being at a high temperature, particularly at high humidity for a long time, is a problem. Slowly but surely, core body temperature rises.
Care homes like this one are doing what they can to keep residents cool and comfortable. But extreme heat gets harder as we get older.
Naturally, I don't like hot weather at all. It makes me dizzy, makes me unwell.
My tips is fresh air. You've got to walk. Even though you're in pain a little bit, you must keep walking.
Shaded areas, which doesn't see the sun all day long. Those shaded areas is possible to find and sit there.
Even if you're young and healthy, keeping hydrated and avoiding strenuous activity is still a good idea if you want to enjoy what's likely to be a June heat record. Tom Clark, Sky News.
Well, those scenes at the end of Tom's report are the kind of place you want to be in this kind of heat wave, but let's face it, not all of us can be. Tom, for instance, is now in this studio with me. That's normally quite cool, but even it's quite hot in here. We're surrounded by glass. I mean, Tom, just how bad is this going to get? 40 degrees plus. I mean, we're entering uncharted territory, aren't we, for the UK?
Yeah, and I think I've a lot of experience reporting this stuff, and you do have to be careful about overhyping things, you know, especially when it comes to what the climate is doing to this whole thing. Given we have heat waves, we have hot weather, and then it gets cool again. You know, just because we're having a heat wave now in June doesn't mean August and July are going to be hot. But the fact we are seeing potentially 40 degrees or close to 40 degree heat in June, you know, that is... Normally we say maximum temperature in July and August. I think that is shocking. And I think the fact that when we break temperature records, it tends to be by point something of a degree, you know, we saw the May temperature record fall by 2 degrees. You know, that it got smashed, and that's exactly what we think we may have broken the June temperature, all-time temperature record today. I mean, there's just check on the number. We're certainly going to break it somewhere in England or Wales tomorrow. And possibly again the following day. You know, these are records falling more and more frequently. You know, the hottest years on record are all in the last, you know, decade or so. We're seeing this continuing trend. And I think what's more interesting and important to remember, you know, we might have seen just over a degree of global warming on average across the planet. But what's very interesting, when that heat gets concentrated by weather events like the heat dome that we're seeing over Europe that brings these certain conditions which lead to, you know, intense heat waves, the heat waves become 3 or 4 degrees warmer. In fact, some modelling done by the Met Office in the University of Reading this week, important meteorological anniversary. Today is the anniversary of the 1976 heat wave. And they modelled that event and found, yes, if it happened again today, it would be 3 degrees warmer. And that's exactly what we've seen. The models are forecasting this correctly, and they're forecasting these heat waves are going to get even hotter in future, up to 45 degrees within 30 years. Potentially. So that, and because these models seem to be being borne out and the predictions accurate, I really think it's time we sat there and took really quite serious notice of what that means, not just for our health, our homes and how we adapt our infrastructure in the UK to manage this kind of heat, but also what our responsibilities are in terms of emissions and what's driving, you know, global warming. I know the UK can't do it alone, but it is a question we can't ignore.
Yeah, Tom, as you said, you've been covering this for some time now, and, you know, the term climate change, global warming, they've been part of the national conversation for decades. Yet public reaction to this, I know you've been interacting with people on social media today, it feels like it's caught everyone by surprise. Perhaps not the scientific community and those who deal with this kind of scenario, preparing for it or looking at it day in, day out. But the public reaction seems to be one of disbelief, shock. Oh, this is a one-off. You know, what have people been saying to you today?
It's kind of exactly that. And I think the fact is, you know, climate change, and we've known this all along, is a very gradual process. It happens, you know, by degrees, in fact, by tenths of degrees, and it's been going on for several decades. But what we're beginning to see now is that feed through when we have extreme weather, whether that's flooding events that tend to be more intense, when we have those storms.
Well, that's been happening in the UK today as well, hasn't there? Flooding as well. It's been a crazy day.
Yeah, we all woke up at 4 in the morning thinking, what on earth is going on, those of us in the south of England at least. Those are very intense storms. They're fuelled by heat, and that is exactly what the models forecast, more intense thunderstorms. When we get heat waves, they'll be that much hotter, and that's what we're seeing. Doesn't mean every single heat wave is going to be that much hotter, but by degrees they will get more intense, and that's being borne out. Look at what's happening in Europe. I think we've got a heat map for Europe from today, because we must be that we're on the very edge of this phenomenon right now. You know, in France and Spain, they are seeing France has already broken its all-time temperature record in France, 44 point something, I'm forgetting degrees. Again, in June, not when you normally expect hottest weather. Spain also has heat alerts pretty much across the entire of the country. So, you know, this is a significant heat wave, and it's one that has been predicted.
Well, Tom, stay there, because I'm going to bring in now Chief Scientific Officer of the UK Health Security Agency, and that is Professor Robin May. Professor, really good to have your company this evening. You'll have been listening there to what Tom has been saying, and this red alert, a rare occurrence for the UK. Just your assessment of what we're seeing unfold over the next 48 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. So you've heard it there. I think this is very unusual, extremely high temperatures. We've only ever issued one red alert before, which was back in 2022. So this is a very unprecedented event. But as you've just been hearing from Tom, you know, we unfortunately have to think of these things as probably happening more frequently in the future and more intensely. So really important over the next couple of days that people take this seriously. I totally recognise that sentiment that you've just been talking about, that, you know, people are slightly surprised, but this is something that happens very slowly. But the fact you're surprised should not put you off taking measures, you know, particularly that maintaining hydration, thinking about your travel plans and your behaviours. This is going to be very, very hot and quite dangerous for quite a lot of people. So it is really important to take this seriously.
Yeah, I mean, it's impacting all facets of life, whether, you know, it's your own personal health, you mentioned hydration there, whether it's the way you get around, train services disrupted today, roads buckling, advice not to travel unless you absolutely have to tomorrow. These are all the things that are coming into place. But it does consistently feel, I was just reflecting with Tom there, that these kinds of incidents, even though the scientific community and the public health community have been talking about them now for decades, the public seems to be a little bit caught by surprise.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think all of us are, we know, very good at dealing with the kind of here and now, and we're quite poor as a kind of species, as humans, about thinking very long term. Many of us, for instance, don't plan very well for our retirement when we're young, when we should, because it feels like a long time away. And this is the kind of same scenario, I think. We have been talking about climate change for all of my life and most of the listeners' life too. It is something that we know is happening now. Unfortunately, the evidence is becoming very, very apparent to us. And it's actually happening, faster in many ways than our original modelling suggested. And so we do have to adapt rapidly now to this changing climate, as well, of course, as taking all the steps we can to mitigate that going forwards and to reverse climate change in the long term.
So, Robin, I have a question for you. One of the things I think I detect, certainly in how people communicate to me, this is just hot weather. We can enjoy a heat wave while it's happening. Yet my experience today in that laboratory, I really got a sense of how, particularly with higher humidity, it really affects your ability to cool off. Can you help us understand why people are at greater risk from this kind of heat wave and who is most vulnerable, and why we should perhaps listen to those warnings that people like you give us in these situations?
Absolutely. So as with most health issues, the people who are most at risk here are the most vulnerable. So the very young, the very old, people who have underlying health conditions, particularly people who may not recognise this and be able to respond. So babies clearly don't know what a heat wave is, but also, for example, elderly relatives who may have dementia, not able to think and respond appropriately. So if you're in a family or friends who have those individuals in that group, please do check in on them over the next couple of days. All too easy for an elderly person to become confused, stop drinking, and then become in real serious health issues. So they're most at risk. But I would stress that actually all of us, even those of us who think of ourselves as being fit and healthy, are also vulnerable over the next couple of days. So everyone really should be staying out of the sunshine, particularly in the middle of the day when it's hottest, carrying lots of water and fluid to rehydrate, especially if you need to travel somewhere, and thinking about general behaviours. I know, for example, very shortly, hopefully people will be celebrating football successes. Very, very easy to overdo it on the alcohol, which is another dehydrating substance, and that combination with hot weather can be quite dangerous. So I don't want to be a party pooper at all, but please do think a bit about that. And the other thing, of course, we've seen both here in the UK previously and unfortunately in the last few days in France, is the very, very big risk of people cooling off suddenly by jumping into cold water and getting into real trouble. So again, I'd really encourage people, particularly, if you've just finished your exams at school, very tempting to cool off with a quick dip in a reservoir or something. If there's not a lifeguard there, if it's not a safe place to bathe, please don't do that. You can end up in real trouble very quickly.
Yes, of course, remember the people who lost their lives in the last heatwave we had just a few weeks ago now. I want to ask you about something we'll be reflecting on later on in the programme. This is the fact that schools are closing early. In fact, I got the email just as I was about to come on air from my children's school saying we're shutting at 12:30 tomorrow, come and pick them up. And schools were shut today. Some plan to shut for the entire day tomorrow and potentially Thursday as well. Do we as a country, given what we've been discussing, need longer-term plans for schools and for workplaces if these kind of hot spells are going to come up as thick and fast in the future?
I think certainly, there's two parts to that. I think clearly we've got a heat wave happening right now, and so we need to be dealing with that. And I think it's quite right that schools, workplaces, hospitals all make their decisions based on their particular circumstances. Do you have air conditioning? What is the situation of your pupils or your patients, staffing, etc., etc. So I think it's quite right, and I wouldn't want to dictate what people should do there. I have been very pleased to see how well people have been engaging with this and taking steps, changing uniform rules, hydrating, changing sports performances, those kind of things. Long term, I think you're right. We do need to think as not just as a country, in fact, but as a whole world about how we cope with what will inevitably now be a period of warming, even if we reverse CO2 emissions and get climate change ultimately under control. We are looking at many decades of hotter temperatures. And that's about thinking about building design, perhaps the ways we work, travel networks, all of those kind of things. As we've been experiencing today, the UK, in common with many countries, has an infrastructure that was built for cooler climes and doesn't fare well when we get into these kind of high temperatures. And so we need, I think, as a society, to think quite carefully about how we develop ways to deal with that.
Professor Robin May, really good to have you on the programme tonight. Some vital information and advice there. That's Professor Robin May, Chief Scientific Officer at the UKHSA, and our science editor, Tom Clark, as well. Thank you very much indeed. Now, England are less than an hour away from kick-off in their World Cup group game against Ghana. A win tonight would secure a place in the knockout stages. Our sports correspondent, Rob Harris, is at the Boston Stadium and joins me now live. And I think I heard a producer talking to you just before I came to you, Rob, saying there was a bit of rain in the air there.
Yes, it is raining here. There's nothing like the heat wave you've got back in the UK. Here in Massachusetts, it's actually in the 20s, which is quite helpful because the stadium here behind me, the usual home of the New England Patriots NFL team, has no roof, so you're completely exposed to the conditions, whereas England, when they were in Dallas the other day and beat Croatia 4-2, that was under roof, had air conditioning, so it didn't matter. It was absolutely baking in Texas, but really familiar conditions, really, to a standard Premier League day here in Boston. Now, we do have the team news ahead of the game against Ghana about to kick off. 2 changes in defence. Coming in, Mark Gahey, the Manchester City player, and Jed Spence, the Tottenham fullback. Nico Riley and John Stones, well, they've dropped out of the starting lineup, but as things are, all things unchanged. And as for the Ghanaian perspective, I'm joined now by the football journalist, Rahman Osman, Ghanaian based in London. How fearful should England be of the Ghanaians?
Well, it's a game where Ghana have to produce. England are the best team. The fearful nature is that Ghana have got speed, and that kind of speed was not available for Croatia. So that's where England have to be very wary. There's a very interesting change that Ghana have made. Inaki Williams plays for Bilbao, didn't feature in the first game. He's been brought in because he's pacey. Then there's Antoine Semenyo. You would know him from Manchester City. Now, Antoine hasn't really lit up this tournament so far, but in Ghana, there's huge expectations for him. Then there's veteran Jordan Ayew. So it's kind of a Premier League Ghanaian team. They understand what the English culture, and the big one is Thomas Partey, former Arsenal midfielder. He wasn't allowed to travel to Canada, so he missed the game against Panama, but he's in the starting lineup. We spoke to him yesterday, and he said he was ready and looking forward to this game.
A lot of familiar faces, of course, particularly Manchester City. Obviously, Semenyo's teammates at City as well. So they all know each other very well.
Yeah, well, I spoke to Semenyo before the game. He said, yeah, of course, he's been texting with Mark Gahey and John Stones, and they've been speaking about this game. They all want to prove a point, and they want England to play well so they can test themselves and see. Ghana in a very good place at the moment because they won the first game. So, I mean, if they don't lose heavy on this one, there's still a chance to go to the Croatia game with a lot of confidence and try and make it out of the group. But yeah, interesting. Ghana will obviously go on a deep block, and with that deep block, hoping to catch England out.
Well, there have been more. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, too.
If you're wondering, this is the Patriots, one of their training fields here. Well, we mentioned Partey there. The reason he was denied a visa for Canada is over the fact he is awaiting trial back in the UK after being charged with multiple counts of rapes. He does deny wrongdoing. American authorities have allowed him here into the countries. That's why he is available to play in this game, the second game for both England and Ghana at this World Cup. Busy day at the World Cup already. Cristiano Ronaldo scoring twice as Portugal beat Uzbekistan 5-0. What it means is Ronaldo has become the first player to score at 6 different World Cups.
Rob, thank you so much from Boston. Let's go to Brighton. Fans there at the fan park ready for the game. A 9 o'clock kickoff. Fans experiencing the kind of weather the England players are expecting themselves out in America. But as Rob said, it's raining there at the moment. A welcome respite from the heat, I am sure. But that is the fans. A very calm scene at the moment. Obviously watching all the build-up. 9 o'clock kickoff. It's going to look very different, isn't it, once the England game gets underway. They are, of course, taking on Ghana for a place in the knockout stages of this tournament. More to come. Now, you would imagine that they have got plenty to talk about. The Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, meeting with the man who is most likely to take his job, Andy Burnham. Well, our chief political correspondent, John Craig, is in Westminster with details because finally the two men have met and had a chat.
Well, last week after the by-election, the Prime Minister said he would speak to Andy Burnham after the weekend. Now, we thought that perhaps that might happen on Monday. After all, the Prime Minister made his resignation speech at 9:30 in the morning. Then in the afternoon, Andy Burnham was sworn into the House of Commons. Now, the PM was due to be in the Commons yesterday afternoon, but he ducked out of doing a statement on the G7 summit, so he wasn't in Parliament. So they've met today, but certainly not in 10 Downing Street, and we're not sure that they met in Parliament either, because the Prime Minister was not expected there. A secret location, we believe. Off-site was the phrase that Number 10 sources used. And my goodness, it must have been a fairly fraught, tense, if not frosty meeting, because there is anger on both sides. The Prime Minister and his allies are furious with Mr Burnham over what they regarded as his betrayal and launching a coup to oust Sir Keir Starmer from Downing Street. Remember that earlier in the year, Number 10, the Prime Minister blocked Mr Burnham from standing in the Gorton and Denton by-election, but then he caved in. They lost that one to the Green Party. He caved in and allowed Mr Burnham to stand. Huge political pressure on him to do that. And, of course, Mr Burnham had that excellent result, 55% of the vote. Supporters claimed this shows that he can beat Reform UK. Now, on the Burnham side, they're furious because the Prime Minister appears to be rushing the process. The nominations open 9th of July. If there's only one candidate, which there is at the moment, it'll all be over on the 16th and the Prime Minister could change on the 17th. One of the things that the Burnham camp are particularly furious about is that today both the Chancellor and indeed the Defence Secretary, Dan Jarvis, have insisted that the defence investment plan, which caused that huge row which led to John Healey's resignation as Defence Secretary, they want to do that before the 7th of July, the NATO summit. Mr Burnham says, hey, you should wait until I'm Prime Minister. I want to sort that problem out. So anger from the Burnham supporters over Sir Keir rushing the timetable, not giving him time to prepare and so on, and still bitterness from Prime Minister over Mr Burnham's treachery, as many of the Prime Minister's supporters call it. So pretty fraught and tense meeting. Can't have been a friendly affair.
John, thank you. John Craig with the latest there from Westminster. Plenty more still to come on the UK tonight. Former SNP chief Peter Murrell sentenced to 5 years in jail today for embezzling over £400,000 of party funds. And with hundreds of schools shut because of the hot weather, we'll be speaking to one headmaster who's taken a hybrid approach.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
Perfect. Let's bring you some breaking news.
Being a Sky News presenter.
I began by asking,
thank you so much,
trusting us to tell her story. The battle for number 10. Sky News has been given exclusive access. Let me give you a sneak peek. It was the day those present would never forget. Why did you decide to open up and tell your story? Former SNP boss Peter Murrell has been jailed for 5 years for stealing more than £400,000 from the party. He spent the cash at a range of luxury items, from salt and pepper shakers to a motorhome that never left his parents' driveway. Our Scotland correspondent Conor Gillis has this report.
He created that false invoice so you could account for the purchase of a Jaguar motor vehicle through the party's books as something else. That's the case, isn't it, Peter?
Confronted on camera, this is the moment he realised he'd been caught red-handed.
What does SNP need over £19,000 of luxury pens for?
Nicola Sturgeon's husband Peter Murrell in custody, arrested, guilty of stealing £400,000 from the SNP, the party he was in charge of for decades. The handcuffs tell a tale of a man at the centre of the downfall, jailed for more than 5 years.
Your actions involved a significant breach of trust to the organisation which you led and to the individual members and donors of that organisation. Because of your position of authority, you were able to circumvent the checks and balances that existed. All told, this was a calculated crime of dishonesty.
The big ticket theft was this £125,000 motorhome, seen here, parked on his mother's driveway, only 4 miles on the clock, and spotted from space. Over 12 years, Murrell spent more than £42,000 on Amazon. Fake invoices, all part of the plot. This £3,000 robotic lawnmower was recorded as legal fees. And from the sublime to the ridiculous, these Le Creuset Mickey Mouse ramekins.
The nature of many of his purchases, detailed in the narrative and schedules to the indictment, has made him a figure of public ridicule. His humiliation will endure beyond any sentence. His future beyond custody is uncertain, but presently it appears bleak and solitary.
The scandal spanning years involved raids on the home Murrell shared with the former First Minister, triggered by one man who believed money was going missing.
The other thing that made me jump over the line was there did seem a reluctance. People seemed to be afraid of taking on Nicola Sturgeon and Peter Murrell, and I decided to jump over the line and make that complaint because I'm not afraid of these people. I never have been afraid of these people.
This was the most secretive and scrutinised police investigation in Scottish history. A probe that saw Nicola Sturgeon arrested and released without charge. She gave a no-comment interview when in custody as a suspect, as was her right. But police here in Scotland have now revealed they had further questions for her. She says she fully cooperated. Officers say the meaning of that is subjective. Lawyers for Nicola Sturgeon say anonymous sources are trying to insinuate guilt, which they say is disgraceful and beyond outrageous. The SNP say this saga has been agony. They want their money back, as do donors who thought they were funding an independence campaign, but were duped, deceived by the very man tasked with delivering their dream. Conor Gillis, Sky News in Edinburgh.
Still to come here on the UK tonight, with hundreds of schools shut because of the hot weather. We'll be speaking to one headmaster who's taken a hybrid approach, and ahead of tomorrow's release of a report into maternity care in Nottingham. Sky News has been speaking to some of the bereaved parents who lost their babies. the conversation about climate change has been going since we were at school, let's face it. Are the kids curious at school in terms of, are they asking questions as to why it's so hot?
So we weave into our curriculum. So I'm really passionate about climate change, to be fair. We weave into our curriculum during assemblies or maybe through RSE or curriculum topics around how the world is changing and how if we aren't sensible and we don't look after our earth and look after our environment, we draw on David Attenborough as an example, then they might change and things might become a bit more complicated for us when we get older. The children are very curious. Just next week, one of my teachers is going to the Eco Council celebration down the road, and they will be talking around what we've done as a project, how we're future-proofing the school, and we're very fortunate around here. We've got lots of lovely schools and lots of lovely head teachers that are doing what they can within the scope and the context that they're in, really.
Well, listen, Mr Connolly, really good to have your company this evening. It sounds like you're striking the right balance. That's Michael Connolly there. Sorry, just slipping into old habits of when I talk to a teacher. Mr Connolly, head teacher of St Peter's Church of England Primary School. I'm sure you get it all the time from parents as well, don't you?
Yeah, it's not bad.
Mr Connolly, thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure, thank you.
Yeah, Hertfordshire Council gave us a statement reflecting some of what Mr Connolly said there. You know, the Department for Education, the UK Health and Security Agency issued guidance for schools, but it is left up to head teachers to make the right decisions for schools and students. Health and education teams at government level providing support as and when is necessary. So children at St Peter's Church of England Primary School curious about why it's so hot. A lot of other children just out there enjoying it as much as they can. Our correspondent Dan Whitehead has been in Cirencester today. A lot of school children there have been making the most of their afternoon off.
Let's go and see if we can have a chat to some of the kids. Where's Matilda here? Matilda, you got. What time did you leave school today?
12 o'clock.
12 o'clock. What were the teachers saying to you?
Just time to go home. Yeah.
And yesterday at school, were they warning you about the heat? Were they giving you advice?
Yeah, pretty
What were they
much.
saying?
They're just saying it's going to be really hot tomorrow. Bring like a cat and maybe some fans.
And sun cream.
Yeah.
Excellent. And are you back at school tomorrow, or don't you know?
Yeah, we're back at school tomorrow.
Well, your brother's somewhere in here. Where is he? Oh, hi. This is William. William, how are you feeling about the fact that you're not at school today?
I think really good because I really like the weather today.
What's so good about being here?
Because you've got the lake, you've got a beach, you've got the nice sunshine. It's just a really nice day.
You've got it all. Have you had an ice cream yet?
Nope, but
Okay.
soon I'm going to do it.
You're going to get one. Ice cream's on its way, says Mum.
Ice creams and plenty of water. Now, tomorrow, the largest maternity inquiry in the history of the NHS will reveal its findings. The Ockington report has investigated Nottingham University Hospital's NHS Trust's maternity care. It's involved nearly 2,500 families after allegations of harm to mothers and babies. Sky Shamal Freeman-Powell has been speaking to some of those who lost their babies.
We were expecting our first baby in April 2016. I was a low-risk pregnancy. We were told to come into the hospital. I remember getting out of the car and I was struggling to walk. You know, I'd been in labour for 6 days. I was absolutely exhausted. And then the doctor said, "I'm sorry, your baby's dead." And then he walked out of the room and left me.
I had Teddy in November 2020. He was born at City Hospital, and we were kept in for a while, discharged the following day to go home, where later that day Teddy became unwell and collapsed, and we had to call an ambulance and be taken into QMC, where he died.
Both families fell by a trust, now at the centre of the largest maternity investigation in the history of the NHS. Sky News first met Sarah and Jack in 2018, just 20 months after their daughter Harriet had died.
We should be grieving for our dead daughter and we haven't been able to have her funeral yet. I think it was absolutely brutal. You know, when your baby dies, you go home with an empty car seat, but my body had still given birth. So I was still postnatal, and you know, I was having phantom kicks and my hair was falling out, and then just the relentless battle with the hospital.
There aren't really words to describe that moment in our lives. We have a dead daughter, and her death was avoidable. And the hospital knew that they had avoidable baby deaths.
But it would be down to parents to prove it. Both were clinicians at the Trust, so knew how to raise the alarm, but say the noise they made was largely ignored by the board and regulators. It was heard, however, by other families with similar experiences. In 2022, Sky News met Kim.
I always felt that something was wrong. You know, healthy babies don't just die. Getting the actual answers was an absolute mission. It should have never been this way. I started campaigning almost straight away after Teddy died. That's when I started connecting with people.
These families will soon learn the true scale of the failings at the Trust as Donna Ockenden prepares to publish her report, which includes more than 2,500 cases that are being examined. Each one is more than just a number. Each one is a baby who never went home, or a child now left without a parent. Families whose lives had been changed forever.
I've spoken to hundreds of families during this. There are recurring themes of not being listened to, poor consent practices, issues in relation to discrimination, to poor care, to inadequate staffing to provide safe levels of care. It goes on and on. I think people will be shocked to see the extent of what families have had to endure.
Sky News analysis of NHS figures from 2025 show Nottingham has one of the highest rates of serious birth injuries affecting mothers. It ranks second highest in England for severe perineal tears during childbirth, with 4.7% of births affected, compared to 3.2% across England as a whole. The area also ranks sixth highest for severe postpartum hemorrhages.
I'm still being contacted by families who suspect that their care has been substandard over the last 12 months, and therefore there is definitely work to do. This is not the end. This is just the families' voices being recognised.
The report will likely confirm what many of the families already know, but will aim to answer their crucial questions. But will it lead to change? And what does that even look like?
I think two things, and I think that would be, the first one would be safe maternity care, you know, not safer, safe. And secondly, some form of accountability.
The Trusts pays tributes to families and say staff have shown a commitment to change. And as the police run its own investigation into deaths and serious injuries, arrests have been made. The failings reflect a national picture, which is also under scrutiny with an upcoming review, with some families questioning whether that will go far enough.
This review and reviews to publish soon after do not address accountability. They don't take it up as far as the regulators, as far as NHS England and government, and it's those people who need to be called to the stand. I can imagine it's just going to be a continued fight because, you know, we want a public inquiry.
Siobhan Freeman-Powell, Sky News, Nottingham. Well, the Chief Executive of Nottingham University Hospital's NHS Trust, Anthony May, has said, "I am very sorry for the pain and suffering these families have endured. We will consider carefully what we need to do next to ensure that we learn from what happened in the past." And I'll be live in Nottingham tomorrow from 10 a.m. to bring you the findings of that Donna Ockenden report as we get them. We'll also be speaking to some of the families involved in giving evidence to the inquiry. Still to come here on the UK Tonight.
England hopes to secure a place in the knockout stages of the World Cup. We'll be assessing their chances ahead of kick-off next.
This program is delivered by DHL, the official logistics partner of ESL.
Welcome to the DHL Sports Hub on Sky News. Coming up, Scotland gets set for their date with destiny against Brazil as they try to reach the World Cup knockout stages for the first time. And celebrations for Wyndham Clark as he claims his second US Open title, but only after being given a hostile reception from American fans in New York. We start with Formula One and a relaxed Kimi Antonelli, who has welcomed the challenge of an improved Ferrari after Lewis Hamilton ended the young Italian's run of 4 Grand Prix wins in a row in Barcelona earlier this month. Aside from last year's sprint success in China, the result was Hamilton's first victory in almost 2 years, with Ferrari bringing a number of upgrades to Catalonia. He's consequently cut Antonelli's lead at the top of the drivers' standings to 41 points, but the teenager isn't worried.
I mean, for sure, they're in incredible form. Ferrari is very reliable, but they're quick as well. So, yeah, we just need to maximize every opportunity that we have and then, yeah, try to do our best. But it's not going to be straightforward, but, yeah, I'm already looking forward to the next one because I really want to go back to where we left or from where we were finishing before.
Well, Ferrari could be looming even larger, but Charles Leclerc's back-to-back DNFs mean he's 40 points behind second-place Hamilton in fourth. George Russell's title bid has faltered as he's been outshone by his Mercedes teammate, and he's 50 points off the pace. As well as the checkered flag in Barcelona, Hamilton also took his first DHL fastest lap of the season as he went quickest on lap 44. His time there just edging out Red Bull's Isack Hadjar. It was Oscar Piastri who was involved in the DHL fastest pit stop. His visit of 2.13 seconds was McLaren's best of the season and the joint third quickest of the campaign so far overall. Hamilton, meanwhile, was a dominant driver of the day presented by Salesforce. He's optimistic of building on his best weekend since joining Ferrari from Mercedes after his win came off the back of second-place finishes at Canada and Monaco.
I think it's just the beginning. Mercedes have got an amazing package and they're so strong. Both drivers are doing such an incredible job. It's going to take absolutely everything from all of us in this team to overcome the deficit, or to get to being ahead of them and doing this consistently. But nothing's impossible. So yeah, just one step at a time.
There's renewed hope among Hamilton's fans. He might finally add to his 7 previous titles, the last of which came in 2021. At 41, many had questioned whether he was past his best, but former champion Jacques Villeneuve has dismissed that line of thought.
I don't understand this concept of, oh, it's too late, he has to retire, poor him. If the fire is still there, why retire? Just because people want to remember a champion at his peak. And suddenly there's a bad or two season, And it hurts them, not the driver, not the sportsman himself. It hurts them as a fan. Winning with Ferrari now, and how, if you look at how many difficult seasons Ferrari have had, and it looks like, well, Lewis joined, one tough year, he's helped build the team, and ended up winning. So he's proven that all these naysayers were wrong. If you have the fire, the talent doesn't suddenly disappear.
What's in your mind, likelihood that Lewis can go and win title number 8?
Lewis knows how to win, and he knows what it takes. And if he gets a sniff of it, there won't be any quarters. And I think that's where he can make the difference. And Mercedes right now is not in a position to be even able or allowed to choose a driver over another. Well, Ferrari is, because Ferrari has to focus on Lewis if they want a small chance of winning.
On to the third golf major of the year at Shinnecock Hills in New York, where Wyndham Clark claimed his second US Open title by following up his 2023 victory with a one-shot success over Sam Burns. Clark, just the 8th wire-to-wire winner of the event, on a list that includes the likes of Ben Hogan, Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy. He came out on top in bizarre circumstances, though, with some fans shouting for him to lose. That was in part down to the fact Clark's playing partner on the day was another contender, the world #1 Scotty Scheffler, with cheers also muted when he played good shots or hold putts.
Man, they definitely didn't want me to win. It's pretty rare in an Open Championship or a major to have fans kind of boo against your shots or cheer for bad shots. So, yeah, I mean, that was tough. But I also sometimes being the underdog is nice. I was in 23, and I kind of did the same thing. And anytime someone said something negative to me, I replaced it with something positive. And, and some of it's self-deserved. I kind of brought it on myself. But I also get it too. I mean, Scotty was going for the career Grand Slam, and it hasn't happened very often. So, it was tough, but I'm proud of myself that I battled through. I mean, things really could have gotten away from me, and I stood tough. And I would have liked to win by more, but as long as you win, it doesn't matter.
England's Group L clash with Ghana is among the latest wave of matches at the FIFA World Cup, with Scotland also building up to a meeting with Brazil tomorrow that could put them into the knockout stages of a major tournament for the very first time. After losing 1-0 to Morocco, Steve Clarke's squad remains well placed to advance as a best third-place team following their victory by the same scoreline against Haiti. This will be the 5th time Scotland have played Brazil at a World Cup, and the South Americans are among the competition favourites. But assistant coach Stephen Naismith doesn't think the occasion will get to the players.
I don't think it will. If I'm honest, I don't think it will. I think nowadays so many of the players are playing against these type of players that they're used to playing against. Some of them are teammates with them. So I don't think that it's Brazil's going to spook any of our players at all. The pressure on the Haiti game was massive, because everybody's just saying we'll win that. That in itself had massive pressure on it. Getting the first victory at the World Cup in so long. Morocco potentially doesn't have as big a pressure because you have got the first result, and then this one you've got more pressure on because it's the last group stage game and you've got a chance of going through. So players nowadays, though, they're brilliant at dealing with pressure. This will just be another one of them, definitely.
Promoter Frank Warren says no decision on where his boxer Tyson Fury will take on Anthony Joshua will be made until after both have had warm-up fights first. Joshua takes on Christian Prenga next month, while Fury's next opponent is yet to be confirmed. Whoever he faces, Warren fully expects the all-British heavyweight clash to go ahead as planned.
They're both signed up for the fight. AJ's got his fight in July, hasn't he? He's fighting in July. And Tyson, I believe, will have a fight. I don't know where it's going to be yet or the date for it. And once they're out of the way, their fight will go on in late autumn, unless they get either of them get beaten in these 2 fights they're going to have. The fight is on, no problems. Let them get their respective fights out of the way. Once that's done, then there'll be an announcement. I don't know, everybody's in such a getting into hissy fits about it, and asking for me to tell them something that has not been decided yet.
Now there's less than a week to go until Wimbledon, and one of Great Britain's biggest hopes of taking a title there at some point has been explaining why he's teamed up with the country's last big winner at the All England club. Jack Draper is fit again after suffering arm and knee injuries in recent months, and he's added Sir Andy Murray to his coaching staff as he looks to move back up the rankings. Now 160th, when he had been as high as 4th, he hopes to take inspiration from his former Davis Cup teammate.
He's always supported me, to be honest. You know, I've always had a great relationship with Andy. Obviously, we spent some time together towards the back end of his career, and he's been a great support for me ever since he stopped as well. But it felt like a really good time to get Andy in my team. I've always wanted that. He's one of my biggest inspirations. And so there's two parts of it. Is one, that it's like to have him there in my coaching team as not only a coach but mentor, someone who's been through it all is a special thing. But also the fact that he believes in me and believes in my tennis, especially in this moment now where I need to come back and build myself up again. It gives me a big boost.
This program is delivered by DHL, the official logistics partner of VSL.